Good day, everyone out there in third Saturday in October land. It is a very steamy morning here in Tennessee, where Bradley and I are joining you from. And the sticky situation here in the late summer here in Tennessee is kind of reminiscent of where we find ourselves as the SEC announced yesterday that we are going to a conference-only schedule starting on September the 26th. But a lot of questions and a lot of interesting possibilities for the season. But sticky nonetheless, just like the weather outside. What say you, sir?
Well, they announced that they're going to a conference-only schedule. Also, we got word that the NCAA is going to allow players to wear social justice on their sleeve, if you will. So we'll get into both of those. Be sure to chime into the conversation on social media at TSIO Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But let's jump right into the SEC schedule.
Yes.
So with the schedule, we're throwing out all the cupcakes. I'm excited because this is what so many fans have clamored for years. They want to see more fewer cupcakes, more Power 5 conference teams.
More entrees, so to speak.
So
fewer cupcakes, more entrees.
Yeah, I'm excited. What were your initial thoughts when you heard it, Chris?
Okay, so this is where I've been the last couple of weeks, and I'm pumped to actually hear news from the SEC, from Greg Sankey, saying that we're going to go with a conference-only schedule starting September 26th and going all the way to moving the SEC championship game 2 weeks later than what it usually is to December 19th. I'm pumped. I mean, this is getting college football September through December like we're used to, although it being different. But I've got this thing in my it's hard for me to fully celebrate because who knows what's going to happen within the month leading up, or I guess now almost 2 months leading up to the start of the season. If it will end up being canceled completely, or there will have to adjust it from there again once we get closer to that September 26th date. So I'm hesitantly optimistic that we will be seeing our teams play very soon. What about you? What's your initial reaction?
So my thought is, one, and I think I've said this before, if the players are healthy and they're worried about fans in the stands, do something with the SEC network. Make it truly a la carte, where you can just go buy it and people would spend a bunch of money. I mean, I would spend $15-20 a month to be able to see all my Tennessee games. If you have that, you probably get some money that you wouldn't have just TV wise, because people who aren't going to the games but don't want to buy the whole package through their cable provider or whatever. You've got that option. But I think things like the SEC network help offset some of those losses. But I'm pumped. The thing that's got me nervous is they talk about, okay, who are those 2 extra games going to be? Because you play everyone in your division. So you've got 6 games there, plus two teams from the other division. So Tennessee and Alabama have a rivalry. So that's always that one team. It's locked in. So the other one just rotates. Means Tennessee and Alabama don't play every team as often as a Vanderbilt would, who doesn't have a locked-in rival from the West.
Sure.
So they said, one thing that's been proposed is, let's take the next 2 teams that were supposed to be on rotation. So who would you play next year, or who would you play over the next 2 years? So for Alabama, that's Florida and Vanderbilt.
Right.
And Florida, I still see it's a big question mark every year. But if I'm Bama, I'm saying, okay, a tough game.
Okay. Okay.
A tough game with Florida, and then, well, they said they were getting rid of cupcakes, but it's Vanderbilt, so. Um, but I'm worried with Tennessee because the next two West opponents are Ole Miss, which is a great storyline, especially if
Absolutely.
it's played in Knoxville. Lane
Yes.
Kiffin's coming back to Knoxville as head coach. Look out. The one that we would play, this would have been our opponent, I think, in 2022, is LSU. They lost. They lost. Why am I blanking on his name? They lost their quarterback, but also Joe Burrow. But
Joe Burrow. Yeah.
but they lost some other pieces too. They still have a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
So I don't want to play them right now. At the same time, I want to play the best, because I think Jeremy Pruitt is pulling things together. Dare I say faster than I expected?
You got that right. Absolutely.
But
It's been
I'm
a very impressive last few years with Jeremy Pruitt building a program that is becoming a contender again.
yeah. Um, you know, the other options are Auburn, which I feel good with Jeremy Pruitt at the helm facing Auburn.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to say that really with any other coach while I've been able to remember things. Uh, and I can't remember who off the top of my head who our other SEC West game is this year. But there's Mississippi State. Um, there's I think we're playing Arkansas this year.
Okay.
Texas A&M. I mean, I don't want to face Texas A&M, but let's. I can't wait for the schedules to be released. I want to know: are
Yeah.
we still playing Florida early? Are we, which is normally the first game? That's going to be a dogfight out of the gates. Are
Yeah,
we?
that should have been September 26th. The our now new first day of the season date is when you were supposed to play Florida, and you are right. The other SEC West team on the Tennessee schedule is Arkansas.
So it's. I can't wait to see that final schedule. Are we still, because we moved Georgia to later, I believe in October? Is that still going to be there? Is the third Saturday in October still going to be near the third Saturday in October?
That was my next question for you. It's gonna our namesake is in jeopardy already. Season 2.
Right. So I, I'm excited, and I want to see more.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, that's kind of what's throwing me for a loop is that I get all excited that we now know that there's going to be a conference only schedule, but we don't know what that schedule is fully. Like we can
right.
make assumptions that again Alabama will play everyone in the West plus Tennessee plus Florida or Vandy, and Tennessee is going to play everybody in the East plus Alabama, Arkansas, and maybe one more, I guess, that we still don't know. So
Yeah.
um, interesting times, man. This is such an bizarre and confusing, and it felt like it was hopeless time. But I'm again hesitantly optimistic that in a few short weeks, I guess 7 weeks from now, we'll be kicking off. I don't know. And so the third Saturday in October is in question. The schedule's in question. Also, one of my biggest excitements leading into the season was watching Tennessee and Oklahoma go head to head,
I'm
and now
gonna miss
that's
that. And
yeah,
and Alabama had USC, and that was kind of out the door early,
yeah.
but
Yeah, it was interesting. I read again. We're recording this on Friday, July the 31st, and releasing it same day. But I just read officially that the game was canceled for USC and Alabama yesterday, which we all knew that was the case because the Pac-12 had said conference only several weeks ago already. So I don't know why there was now an official announcement that the game at Jerry World in Dallas is now canceled when we've kind of known that for weeks. But I guess you have to post something to get viewers to click on articles.
Yeah, and I mean, until the SEC says it's final, is it really final?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's I don't know. I want to see the schedule now. I want to see how it lays out, because I think no matter what, and I think this is really across the board for every SEC school. Tennessee's schedule just got harder. Even if the two additional West teams we play are the two worst teams in the West, that's still not UNC Charlotte or Troy or Furman.
Right.
I will say that going back to a few weeks ago, Gus Duggerton was virtual head coach at Tennessee for two video game seasons.
Yeah.
Runner-up in the national championship game his first season, won the national championship his second season, then left for Troy. Troy played Tennessee that next season and beat Tennessee. I don't think that would be the same case if Troy and Tennessee were to meet on the gridiron in real life.
True.
But yeah, it's going to get tougher not having out of conference games.
Yeah, I read something somewhere that said, what was it, that the biggest winner of this is Will Muschamp, because now only playing SEC teams, he does not have to play Clemson as his yearly rival over there in the ACC.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty funny. What are your thoughts on the messaging that they're going to allow the players to put messaging? It's like, what is it, a patch on the front of their jersey, and then where their names usually are, they can put a message there as well.
Yeah. So the patch, and I can't quite understand what they mean in the language that they said, because they said all the patches have to match, which I'm not sure if that means everyone has to wear the same patch, and not every player has to wear a patch. You can either opt in or opt out. Does that mean the team as a whole picks one patch, and that's the one that you can wear? And then you can put any name, or I guess movement name, on the back of your jersey.
Right.
And so I'm not sure about the patch. I think the names can be individual to the player. But I like it. And this is part of the marketing brain that I've got going on. I want the action to directly relate to the cause. There have been a few movements in the last couple of years that I don't know what it is. In marches, I think directly relate, because you're normally holding signs and you're saying what's going on, and there's one unifying thing.
Right.
I think my trouble early on with kneeling during the national anthem was I couldn't make the connection between the national anthem and police brutality. I think now it's in the Pledge of Allegiance, there's the line "Justice for All," and that they don't do the Pledge of Allegiance before football games, but in some sort of capacity, not saying "Justice for All." That makes sense with police brutality. There's not justice for all, and so being able to wear the patch, I love it. Being able to put a name on the back of your jersey of somebody who has suffered an injustice, I love it. I'm so excited I've said this before about Jeremy Pruitt coming out and saying, "Hey, we are going to support social justice um, causes."
Right.
And just to clarify, when they said Black Lives Matter, they didn't mean the organization Black Lives Matter. They meant the idea of social justice for Black lives, fighting against police brutality, that sort of thing. So I'm very excited for where it's going.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you heard the news?
Yeah, again, just to clarify, and again, I'm not one to speak for a movement that is not my own, although I support Black Lives Matter wholeheartedly. But again, that's not my place to really speak into it with any authority. But
Right.
yeah, I've heard something to the effect of the country that doesn't stand up for me, I'm not going to stand up for it when the song is played, something to that effect. But again, I'm going to let other people that are quite more informed than I am to make that exact determination.
Yeah.
But I like it. The interesting thing to me is that last night the NBA kicked off again for the first time down in Orlando. And to the tie-in to our other love of Disney, down at the Wide World of Sports complex, that's where they're playing all their games. They are also allowed to have a message on their where their names usually are. Instead of their names, they can put a message there. And watching both games last night, I saw several people with some really cool things of, I'm a man, say her name, peace, equality. Like those were the kinds of messages that are there. And, thinking about the fact that you don't have a lot of real estate to put like a sentence or a paragraph there, you have to really pick something specific.
You got to get creative.
Right, get creative. But those are professional sports who usually have more leeway. I am, being an Alabama fan, that of a college team, that for the majority of me thinking about college sports, I've always looked at those players. They're men. Most of them are 18 years or older, which they can go fight for our country. And so they are considered men, even though we call them kids oftentimes. I've always had a beef with that because, if you're old enough to vote or go fight for our country, you're not a kid in my book. So I look at those student athletes as men. But oftentimes they're called kids. They're called amateur athletes because they haven't made it to those professional levels. And because of that, oftentimes their voices
get paid.
Right, exactly. Yeah, wink. They don't get any money, at least not over the table that we can see,
Right.
until it comes out in some sort of lawsuit or something. But it's interesting to see NCAA say that this is going to be allowed for people that they have traditionally said the student athletes don't get a say. So I'm excited that now they do get that say and are able to put something to represent something that's going on in our world right now. So I'm pumped. I'm excited to see how the players use their creativity and send a message to the world. And I guess the team at large choosing what they are going to say on the front of their jersey. It's a wide world out here. It is a very, very different world than where we were just this time last year. I can remember when we first started off this podcast and now turning into also something live that people can see our faces, that, it seemed like a simpler world, not necessarily in all good ways, but it was a simpler world where we could just talk about preseason like we've been able to do for 50, 60, 70 years before that.
Yeah.
Our world is a very different world in just a few short months. So buckle up. Again, I saw yesterday that we now have a conference-only schedule for the SEC, but that's still 7-8 weeks away. I think that today is officially 57 days until kickoff. And so if we have kickoff at all, and usually the 26th of September is my wife's birthday. The 17th of December is my birthday. So usually by the time her birthday comes around, we're getting through those cupcake games and about to go into SEC play, heading out of September into October. And then by the time that my birthday hits on December 17th, the SEC has already crowned their champion, and we are in the middle of bowl play. by that period. And so the fact that opening day will be my wife's birthday, and just 2 days after my birthday will be the SEC championship, even the schedules are something that we've never seen before. So I'm buckling in for a long, wild ride this season.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm very excited about the schedule. It's very much jumping in the deep end.
Yeah.
No warm up games. But the interesting thing about the schedule, there will be no common opponents for any college football playoff rankings.
Yeah.
Which has been a big factor with college football playoffs, with BCS, with just the eye test of, hey, how did they do against the same team? So it's going to be a mess. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good question that I would love to pose to you quickly as well, is that with no common opponents, then are we going to have to lean heavier on postseason strength of schedule more than we ever have before, because there's not a lot of other comparison points to look at to see who's going to play in the playoffs, or if we're even going to have bowl games, or what all of that's going to look like? What are your thoughts there?
In some ways, I feel like you have to, in order to make the playoffs, you may have to say, look, you pretty much have to play in your conference championship game to even have a shot at the playoffs.
Sure, yeah.
So if the Big Ten has, and I don't know who's good in the Big Ten, if they've got two teams with one loss and going into the championship game, one of them comes out with two losses, but then Pac-12 doesn't have anybody with fewer than two losses. SEC doesn't have anybody with fewer than two losses. ACC doesn't have anybody with fewer than two losses. I don't know. You've got a one-loss Big Ten team and a two-loss Big Ten team that make it in, and other conferences are not represented. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I'm glad I'm not on that committee.
And it seems like go for it. Sorry. I was going to say, it seems that this may be a default shot at let's see what an 8-team playoff looks like, maybe sooner than it's not necessarily on paper, but if you take all 5 of the Power 5 champions and then have 3 other teams that look good on paper or look like they should deserve to be there, that could be a possibility of narrowing down those and then have some sort of situation where those 8 teams play each other, and then we have the playoffs as they've looked for the last few years, with 4 teams left after those games have been played. Because how do you again, if you only do conference champions, then at least one team's going to get left out if it's in the traditional take the 4 best teams and let them do a 3-game playoff.
Yeah. It's going to be a madhouse. Like I said, I'm glad I'm not making those decisions. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the fireworks. And I do want to say, just kind of in closing, about the social justice stuff, I also understand traditionalists. I tend to be, even though sometimes I get excited about new things, I like Tennessee's traditional uniforms. I do like the smoky grays or the black uniforms that they're talking about. But I love the white helmets with the power tees. I love just, orange jerseys with numbers, not a whole lot on there. At the same time, I understand there needs to be some rallying around whole races of people, not just in the U.S. but in the world, who have been marginalized. And if if all we can do is support wearing a badge on a jersey, it doesn't seem like that big of a thing. But I do understand traditionalists who don't want to mess with any advertising on jerseys, any branding other than school stuff. So I just wanted to say that, but I'm excited for the possibility of moving closer to a 2020 college football season.
Woo.
Can't wait to see what happens. Tailgating is going to be different this year.
Yeah, or if it's allowed at all. That sort of thing of what are you going to do for the weekend? I was reading a few articles in the last couple of days of if that's even going to be something that is going to be allowed, because of the nature of tailgating is let's all get together before the game and all hang out together, and then let's go inside the stadium and watch the game if you're tailgating from the parking lot of one of the many schools, if that's even going to be allowed. So you're right. This is, again, it is bizarre to me that we have so many questions this close to the season supposedly starting. So stay tuned. We're going to stay tuned and hope bring you all the latest and greatest of everything that we have learned. And we'd love to hear your feedback as well. Let us know what you think. Do you like the ideas of putting the messaging on jerseys? Do you think it's amazing? Do you think it's, again, from a traditionalist view, that it's going to take away from what we're used to seeing on the uniforms? Also with the schedule, do you like the SEC only schedule? Do you like the fact that we're not playing some of those games like Tennessee, Oklahoma, Alabama, USC, South Carolina, Clemson, those that we've been looking forward to for the last year or so? Tell us how you think. We'd love to hear it, because this is the tailgating podcast for the rest of us. And even though we may not be tailgating in a traditional way, we still want it to be a community where we can get together and high five and chat about all this stuff. And so let us know.
Absolutely. And something that I just wanted to say in closing, we put a poll on Twitter the other day asking, how do you feel about, and this is before it was announced, how do you feel about the possibility of going to an all SEC schedule? And got a lot of got some votes there. I was surprised at how many people said neutral.
Yeah, me too.
I understand they either love it because they've been clamoring for it, or they hate it because, okay, no more Alabama, USC, no more Tennessee, Oklahoma, no more Furman for homecoming. I didn't even think about homecoming. Oh, it's never fun when you lose your homecoming game. Anyways, let us know your thoughts on social media at TSIO Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Until the next episode of Third Saturday in October, all I have to say is roll Vols.
Roll Vols, baby. We know we're going to get that game if we have a season.
Yes,
Alabama, Tennessee is still on the calendar, so roll Vols indeed.